Okay. Looks like we're actually back now.
Yes, I can see it on my end, which is good.
I don't know how much of our conversation was cut there, but or if it was ever actually streaming. But we are in the Operation Skyhook GC here, so I'm just going to quickly read through what we got going on. So the Empire is constructing a space fortress on celestial scale. Project codenamed Death Star is a 160-kilometer armored sphere of untold destructive potential. If such a weapon were allowed to exist, it would be an affront to the very concept of freedom. High Command has agreed to this briefing because we believe the Death Star will be operational in a matter of months. The Emperor was kind enough to invite a few rogue senators to his battle station, allowing us to make this estimation. Clandestine information gathering has yielded only limited success since then, so the time has come to take a more active approach. We're initiating the second phase of Operation Skyhook to obtain comprehensive schematics of the Death Star through military action. We have to assume the station will be able to repel any conventional attack, so it's vital that our scientists get every opportunity to look for a flaw in the design. Although the plans for the primary objective, there are also secondary concerns. Sector forces are to take special note of Navy-escorted convoys and past sightings up the chain so we can hit them. Anything that can be done to disrupt the supply lines will buy us more time. We also don't have the location we don't have the location of the main construction site, although we are aware that it is capable of relocating across the galaxy. Given this, we may be able to mount a preemptive strike to cripple the Dreadnought. Once an exploitable weakness is found, we'll proceed to the third and final phase, stopping the Death Star. From this point on, Operation Skyhook is the top priority of the Rebel Alliance. We need some sort of new hope. Major fleets are located at Mon Calamari, Raltier, Turkana, and Yavin 4. Did it just... I'm terrified of the stream going down. The Alliance to restore the Republic will achieve victory if the Death Star is destroyed or all enemy planets are conquered, and the Empire will achieve victory if Alderaan, Brigia, Mon Calamari, Raltier, and Yavin 4 are conquered or destroyed. So, that's how we're going to be framing our conquests here. So, let's take a look here. Anyway, anything I should draw my attention to initially?
Well, so the first thing is I would try and find the location of those planets with the major fleets, because those are probably the ones you're going to be using. As the Rebel Alliance, you're spread across the galaxy, and most of your planets are not really connected to each other. You have small fighter bases and backwater worlds, which have minimal forces and will probably get immediately crushed by the Empire.
Right. So I do remember from our Empire playthrough, and I guess just basic canon knowledge, that Mon Calamari had a pretty significant starting force. So we'll probably try to take advantage of that and maybe take over this sector over here. But if there's anyone in the comments or in the live chat there who has a question that you would like to pose to Bob, then drop it in there and we'll try to answer everything as we go through here. I think we are going to start off with getting this fleet from Turkana or Mon Calamari and getting to Quirmia, which I believe is one of the more independent sector forces as opposed to being an Imperial stronghold, but...
Yes, but it's a good idea to try and surround Raxus, because as you may know from your Imperial Remnant, not Remnant, too much ICW, from your Empire playthrough, there's a pretty significant force there.
Alright, destroy Imperial freighters. With the Empire nearing the completion of its Death Star project, we have seen increased freighter traffic in the Outer Rim. Destroying Imperial freighter convoys will slow down their construction efforts and buy us more time against the Imperial fleet. So
I'm pretty proud of this mission. Essentially, what you can do is scout out any Imperial freighters on the map, and if you destroy them, it will actually crash the Imperial economy.
But not the game, right?
So, not the game, hopefully. No.
Okay.
But I'm pretty pleased with that one, because essentially the missions for both sides I created based on the initial kind of briefing and the kind of things that were suggested in that originally. So I was pretty happy to get that in. So unfortunately, I think Akbar will probably come in a YT-1300 if you drop him in separately, because I still haven't got round to bringing hero transports back. So if you want to use his hero bonus, which is pretty substantial, but not really necessary against independence, then you'll need to work out a fleet composition beforehand.
Right. So is that a thing that you are definitely planning to change going forward, going back to standardized hero ships, or are you sticking with the upgrade paths being what they are and having them attached to ships?
I'm really still like 50-50 on that. Maybe 60-40 towards having them back in units, mostly because the AI has trouble dealing with space heroes that are effectively ground units. They like to drop them onto ground, and then it's super easy to kill them because they're just one guy with a pistol.
Hmm. Well, I mean, Akbar was best known for his ability to wield a pistol, so it could work either way.
It's something I want to work on. There was a system in 1.2, I think, which is a system I'll go back to. The initial state of the hero was that they were just a guy who attaches to a ship, and then you buy when you buy the upgrade, they gain the transport, so you can make the upgrade quite expensive. So you're not just getting free independence classes or something.
Right. So it's asking, Umber's asking in the comments, pretty new to this mod, so I'm curious as to how many people work on it. Is there a dedicated team like TR? So we touched on this a little bit earlier, but if you want to.
I am the dedicated team currently. The other two members, we've had a number of members over the years, and you can see them in the credits PDF, which is available with the mod. But the main two guys being effectively on hiatus due to life things for the past few years. So I've basically just taken the mod and ran with it as much as I can. I've definitely been consistently inspired by the original design of the mod and tried to keep it as true to that as possible. But I'm moving towards streamlining and generally making it as a lot more user-friendly than it was in the past.
Well, I know you're also someone who's been involved in the community, in the Empire War modding community for quite some time. So how did you get involved with, I guess, the community as a whole and with Phoenix Rising then?
Well, I started out basically when I got Empire at War, and I started learning about that there was a map editor and mod tools coming out for it. I'd already started learning a bit of like 3D graphics design and programming just for fun while I was in secondary school. And then Empire at War came out. I loved Star Wars at the time. It was great. I considered it to be a great game at the time. I really enjoyed it, and so I started modding it, mostly making maps because I'd made maps for a number of other games in the past, and it was just something that seemed like a cool thing to do in Star Wars. So I started doing that, and then I got into mapping enough that I joined the Ultimate Empire at War team, which some of you who've been in the community a long time might remember as an extremely overambitious mod that was intended to add all of the Star Wars eras to a single mod. So you'd go through from the Old Republic to the Legacy era. That basically fell apart after a few years. I went to university and kind of stopped modding for a while, and then joined up with the Phoenix Rising team also as a mapper. And now here I am running the mod. I mean, Ultimate Empire War I also ended up running after a while, despite just joining as a mapper. That seems to be how it goes for
That's
me.
why you just have to join as a consultant. Oh, does this mean you're going to take... I don't know if I like
sorry.
this
Your job... It's okay, I'm not mapping. You've got Rogue Leader for that, so I can't take it over.
So for those of you who are also not aware, Bob recently started also consulting on Thrawn's Revenge. He's very hesitant to say he's part of the team, but call it what you want.
I'm effectively a team member. I will concede I'm effectively a team member. I'm in all the Discord.
That's almost as begrudgingly as Pox said it when we had our team stream last year. But another question that just came up in the comment or in the chat there is about the mod's performance on the Galactic level. So one thing that you've done, which I believe is new to this build, I don't think there was any light versions in the original build, is make the lighter versions, which has, I believe it's primarily reduced starting forces.
Yes, so the only major difference between the light GCs and the normal full fat ones is that the light version has reduced starting forces. I'm actually looking into probably reducing them further, especially in the non-historical campaigns. Definitely Galactic performance has always been the biggest problem with Phoenix Rising, and it's caused probably the main reason the mod isn't as popular as I think it could be and maybe should be. And I've been working I want to say tirelessly because that sounds cool, but no, I've been working on trying to fix that as much as possible. Yeah. One of the big things I've been doing that I plan to do with the full release is probably further reduce unit upgrade counts, because one of the things which slows the game down considerably is actually the AI calculations. Despite us only having a couple of AI players most of the time, or even only one opponent, like in Operation Skyhook, there's so many planets and so many units for them to process on a single processor that it lags the whole game up. So reducing the unit counts and cleaning up some of the starting forces is my big kind of goal for getting the performance up to. It won't be ICW level, but it will be certainly more attainable.
And I think that's actually something we should touch on a bit here for those who are less familiar with Phoenix Rising, the upgrade system itself. So there is quite an in-depth system of tech research and unit upgrades that you can go through. That well, there's unit upgrades we mentioned pretty quickly before the hero upgrades when we started this battle. So if you want to just, I don't know if you want to expand on that a little bit for those unfamiliar with it.
Sure. So yeah, the tech upgrade system is probably the most unique part of the mod. Basically, each unit has its own individual upgrade tree, so you can take your X-Wings from a New Hope era all the way through to the Yuuzhan Vong era in terms of power by buying a research facility and getting research done. You can see down in the selection bar where Corey has his unit selected, each unit has a little number of pips next to it, and those pips denote the unit upgrade level. So 1 pip is the baseline level. Sometimes they have no pips if there's no particular upgrade available for them. And then units with more upgrades have more pips, so there's some BTLS-3 Y-Wing starfighters there, which are provided, I believe, by the Independence class. And basically, you upgrade those units individually as you like to create kind of your perfect fleet. You can research new units as well. So, for example, the Rebellion can get up to the Republic-class Star Destroyer and some other late-era units, which also need to be expanded on. And essentially, this tech tree means that you can create your perfect fleet. If you really, for some reason, you decide that the Rebel Alliance really actually needs to focus on their heavy cruisers, you can get all the heavy cruisers to the maximum level possible and go crush the Empire. If you think the Empire probably should have really focused on their fighter designs a bit more, you can go and upgrade the Defender all the way through to X8 and annihilate Rebel fighter swarms without any difficulty. That's the kind of flexibility that's offered by the upgrade system. This also translates into ground combat, where we allow you to upgrade and research ground units. And we also have a hero upgrade system, so heroes can be promoted to higher ranks. So currently Akbar, I believe, is a Grand Admiral, not a Grand Admiral, he's either Supreme Commander or just High Admiral. Fleet Admiral, there we go. He's a Fleet Admiral currently. And he can be promoted all the way through to Supreme Allied Commander, which was his status later on in canon. And these canonical upgrades can be purchased the same way as they are for units. So you get really powerful heroes by the late game.
Right, so there was another question there about TR. Would you ever consider implementing the same sort of upgrades for TR? One of the things that I believe that makes the upgrades able to work involves a lot of some story scripting, and the fact that it is a bit more limited in the number of factions that are there, because just to tie it into the previous question, one of the reasons that that the performance is a bit slower on the galactic map is because of those upgrades. So there is a bit of a trade-off in that way. So it's something that works really well for Phoenix Rising, but the more broad you make the faction base, it tends to be less sustainable for the game.
So there is actually a question from Federox in the chat. He's asking about faction colors seem a bit confusing. Why not stick to traditional ones? I do kind of agree. The faction colors were changed from 1.2 to 2.0. I believe the intent was to make basically the Empire the Op4, the opposing force, and the classic color choices for kind of the Allied forces and opposing forces is blue for the Allied, red for the Op4. So I think I'm considering swapping those back around because I know a lot of people love their Blue Empire and their Red Alliance. I kind of agree with that to a certain extent. The hyperlanes question that Federox also had. We have each hyperlane has its own specific speed modifier and income modifier associated with it. So the huge hyperlanes like the Hydian Way and the Polemian trade route have some of the fastest travel times and the best income from connecting them up. I think it might not affect income, but it definitely is the fastest travel speed. So if you're on a major hyperlane, you tend to want to fortify those planets a lot because they can be attacked very quickly, quicker than you can bring a fleet in from another planet. And planets that are on backwater worlds, it can be very difficult to get in and attack them because it takes a long time to get fleets there, and you might get run around the back while you're not looking. So that's the significance of the hyperlanes.
And another area in the mod that you've put a lot of work into, I know, is the way the AI interacts with some of the changes that you've made. And this is something that you've also done for Thrawn's Revenge as well. So do you want to go a little bit into some of the focuses you've had with the AI behavior in Phoenix Rising?
Sure. So the big thing that was planned for 1.2 that never really worked due to some errors in the coding was to have the AI build infrastructure correctly. We have a lot of relatively complex infrastructure options in Phoenix Rising because you can build 5 different levels of shipyard to build different types of ships, and you can build a number of different kinds of ground structures. And the AI wasn't very good at dealing with that, so I've had to go through and basically rewrite a lot of that from scratch. I've changed the way the AI deals with stuff in tactical combat because as you may have noticed, Phoenix Rising doesn't have any hard points. That's something we can discuss a bit later, but that affects the AI. So I've had to adjust that. Generally, the way the AI behaves on the galactic level has been improved. They're more aggressive in sensible places. They'll tend to they will upgrade their units. They will research new units, and they will try and use heroes where possible. So that's one of the big definitely, the AI changes are one of the things I'm most proud of, and it's one of the things that I personally have had the most impact on the mod with.
I should also mention, for anyone who's interested in finding out more about how the AI in Empire at War works, you also did do a guide that you put up on Steam to how AI coding in Empire at War works more generally, and covering all the different plans, goals, and everything that the AI works with. So I don't know if there's an easy way to find that. I believe it's actually pinned in... if anyone's on the Discord server for CGB, I think Mr. Porto pinned it within the Phoenix Rising channel there.
I believe so, yeah. It's also, you can just search for, I think you should just search for like AI guide or something on the Steam guides page. You should find it. It's got a little R2 droid with a bunch of stuff coming out of it.
I'm going to just quickly read out this new mission we have here. So, attack Imperial research planets. The Empire must be conducting research for the Death Star projects all over the galaxy. Seek out research facilities and conquer the planets they're found on. It should give us good intel on the location of the Death Star construction site. So actually, since we're about to start a ground battle, this is probably the perfect time to start talking about the hard points. So, as you just pointed out, and I'm sure people noticed during the battle, there aren't any targetable or destroyable hard points in the mod, but I know basically what you've gone with is representing all the weapons on a ship with essentially their own hard point. If you want to
invasion commencing,
go into
so basically, because Phoenix Rising has a strong focus on a more simulatory, simulation based. Oh, this is one of the
simulatory is
moving out. Simulatory, yes, it's a simulatory mod. It's very focused on actually encompassing as much of Star Wars canon as possible, including unit loadouts. So all ships have all of the weapons they have in canon, and as you upgrade them, they quite often gain more, or they gain double layouts. And that means that if you wanted to have a Star Destroyer, for example, it has over 120 light turbo lasers and turbo ion cannons. That's not feasible to have as targetable hardpoints. You just have this massive targets that would be impossible to actually set up. So that's a pretty big reason as to why we moved away from targetable hardpoints. The other thing is that it allows us to get away with a few specific, like, in-game engine things that work a little better that most people don't care too much about, so I won't go into those. On ground combat, we also have units use hardpoints because that allows for proper inaccuracy. One of the biggest bugs in vanilla Empire at War is that ground units don't miss. And that's a huge balance problem for vehicles. So one of the big things we did was every unit, including infantry, uses hardpoints. Infantry can fire on the move, and they're affected by weather very strongly. We have strong weather effects in the mod, though I've reduced the effect of rain, so you're not going to be completely useless. And
well, I may be. Maybe my unit.
And so ground combat also uses hardpoints, and that allows us to have things like infantry have grenades as side weapons. And vehicles can miss infantry. Infantry are quite small. Everything is also scaled to be the correct size. So infantry are quite small. But one of the things I recently did, in fact, based on Corey's feedback from his previous video that he did on Phoenix Rising, his video series, which you should watch, I added in these infantry icons, which took a lot of wrangling, but finally we have lovely infantry icons so you can see your units quite clearly and distinguish where your infantry and enemy infantry are very quickly.
And I just zoomed in on those, but there were several days where we were frantically looking for a solution to that. It was a fun time.
Yeah, it turns out that you just attach a model to the container. If you give the container a model, that works fine. I actually need to remove it on stealth units because it means you can see stealth units, but that's fine for now. Oh yeah, Gallifrey transports are garbage. Don't even try and attack anything with them.
I was gonna go to the other reinforcement points, but I was waiting for these guys, which I thought I dropped, but I must have had clipping with stuff. Hey, can you just destroy that, please? Then our sky thingies can leave. I don't know if I'm within the min range for that.
I don't think so. So this MPTL you have is like the early MPTL, which is based on the one from Force Commander, I believe, or something like that, without any stanchions to hold it up. And then as you upgrade it, it becomes the familiar one from Empire at War. Just like the T2 tanks, which I believe you're fighting T2As right now. When they become T2Bs, they'll basically be identical to the Empire at War ones. One of the things I do enjoy about Phoenix Rising is that back in 1.2 we had a guy come in and make a lot of lovely land models. So we have a beautiful Armored Freerunner model, a V-Wing model, the Arrow Scout Landspeeder model. They're all PX-10. Some lovely models that I wish I could get more of, basically.
Who was that? I remember when that guy showed up, and I remember when he did the Freerunner, because that was actually... I think I made mine right afterwards, and I used his as a reference image.
Yes, Nerty, I believe, was his name. He unfortunately disappeared from the community a while ago. So one of the issues that I need to look into with land at the moment is there's some issues with turret targeting on certain vehicles. I think if you make them go a bit further away, it should help, but basically they don't quite point down well enough.
Yeah.
I think that's just an engine thing.
All the people killing me. Why are they doing this? Don't they want the rebels to win?
Yeah. So the independent faction thing is slightly awkward from the kind of rebel standpoint, I guess. It's one of the things I want to try and work out to see if I can pull in any kind of diplomacy methods or ways to convert independent planets through non-military means,
right.
Because it is, from a kind of like story perspective, slightly odd.
Let's get these swamp speeders in here.
Fire. Roger that. Let's go.
I was not expecting this much resistance.
Awaiting orders.
Well, let's do a flyby here.
Reporting.
So Drozzle had a question about airspeeders working properly. They work as well as airspeeders in Empire at War work, so take that as you will.
Form up. Attack that target. Yes, Commander.
Yeah, it's not a...
Closing on target.
I think the biggest issue they tend to have is that their targeting ranges and their flyby ranges can be very... They don't like to cooperate.
No, they really don't.
wanted to save this for the base. I don't think I'm going to have the opportunity to.
Unit destroyed.
It's one of the things you may that viewers may have noticed there is that our bombing runs in Phoenix Rising are quite different. Instead of having just a flat
Course set.
damage bombing run come across, it's more of a strafing run done by the units, so they fire their weapons as the weapons are. So eventually we plan to have it so that if you have upgraded bombers in orbit, you'll get those upgraded bombers doing damage based on their weapons. So the Empire have incredible ground attack bombers because they have concussion missiles which are devastating against infantry, whereas the Rebels tend to have ground attack bombers that are primarily aimed at anti-vehicle combat. So
Copy. Ball out.
also, yeah, their orbital bombardment is the nice pacifist ion cannon, so good luck with that.
Destroyed.
Oh yeah, then that's not going to kill too many people.
Build pad.
Yes,
Gotta
Commander.
get you guys
Course
back
set.
here. Getting forced back to our landing zone. Stop it.
I'm not saying retreat, but you might want to retreat. Independent forces are actually surprisingly powerful a lot of the time. We tend to give them quite upgraded units, and they get their infantry platoons are usually double size, so they're usually very weak infantry. They'll die to like a blaster pistol, but they're generally very large numbers of them.
Don't they understand I'm trying to bring them freedom?
We've lost a build pad.
You need to roll out the American flag for that.
I don't think we have one of those. So I guess I'll need to build other ground forces first.
Yeah, you probably just want more free runners. Free runners are amazing, as they are
I
in,
kinda want the
TR
heavy
as well.
tracker.
Constructing unit.
Oh, those are pretty fun too. Those are
The
currently
reveal
armed
on
with, I
that
think,
is-
heavy lasers.
All right, so we have our. I'm going to bring up our missions here. So we have the freighter one, and we have the attack Imperial Research Planet. So, just in the interest of me cheating, is there any obvious research planet I should be going for first? Or
Well, if you know your Star Wars history, Corey, you should know where the research planets are in
I'm
Operation
asking
Skyhook.
for everyone else.
Oh, well, in that case,
Not like I know. I'm just trying to be a good host for everyone.
well, if you recall the game Dark Forces, there's a planet that Kyle goes to visit in the early stages called Danuta, which is over in the eastern rim, and you will actually find Kyle Katarn with a little force of spec force to go raid that planet. So because Kyle is a stealth hero, you could send him alone, or you can send him with, I believe he has a general with him, and you can send up to. In raid combat, you can send up to a one hero, sadly, so you won't be able to send the general. You can send one hero and up to 3 infantry. So, unfortunately, you're not directly connected. There's Bunta in the way.
No, that's got to go. So we want to get down there. I'm gonna. Will he be able to beat the forces on Bunta? Because after our last experience there with the
No.
Independence.
Not even Kyle Katarn. You can probably send him against Danuta alone. However, I did nerf Kyle pretty considerably. He
I
no
remember
longer
that coming
has.
up in the PR chat in.
Tactical battle imminent.
Yeah, so Kyle no longer has his Dark Trooper weaponry. He has previously he had his post Dark Forces weapon of a Dark Trooper Phase 2 repeating laser cannon and missile launcher. So more realistically, he has a Stormtrooper rifle now and his Briar blaster pistol. He still has detonite charges and thermal detonators too, but he's not going to rip through vehicles like he did previously. You'll have to upgrade him to be able to do that in a later patch. So this is the Quaimar suppressions. So help, you're being suppressed. And
Ready for action.
you're going to get destroyed probably. But
Okay.
you can probably take out a few of the Empire
We're on our duty
bits and
station.
bobs. Uh-huh.
Oh, I get it. No, I think we're pretty much royally screwed here. I don't think that's going to be. I think that's.
Well, you
gonna
don't
be much
think-
of a switch.
You don't think a couple of frigates, a corvette, and a bulk cruiser are going to stop? I mean, you got a Golan 1.
Well, where's
might
the
switch
plot
out them.
armor? Plot armor upgrade here.
Orbital command available.
I don't see the build.
I'm
option
afraid
for
that is when you have your heroes involved. You need to bring out Garvin Dreas and Jack Porkins, though he doesn't have the best plot armor.
Advising. Setting course.
To be fair, the only real plot armor people you can go recruit Han
Frigate standing by.
on Elasia, and you can go and get
Commence proceed.
Luke from Tatooine. They have the best plot armor.
that. Okay.
So,
Oh, I get it. No, I think we're
One of the other big changes I made recently, which was put into the demo, is that space maps now, the markers for structures are more sensibly spread out. So you'll notice your Golan is now sitting directly in front of your space colony, and your shipyard's off to the side in a safer location.
Keep your eyes open.
That is probably for the best, but ultimately in this battle, I don't know that it will do me much good.
At your command.
Maybe we can take
Probably
out a
not.
Carrack.
Awaiting orders.
Yeah, you can probably take out a Carrack.
Blasted nerf herders.
That's our goal for the day. How do you use space commanders without ships properly when using a designated starting unit? So, if you do try to use the Pathfinder unit and you want to use a space hero, it does mean they'd be in a shuttle. So if you do want to take advantage of the heroes without risking them immediately, you do tend to need to not use the Pathfinder units.
Copy.
Oh, one of them looks like it blew up. It's a great day for the rebels.
Yay, destroyed a cruiser.
Receive message.
I am considering
Station is under attack.
Kyle might get the Imperial Repeater or a grenade launcher. That's something he might get, because again, he had that in Dark Forces. He didn't really pick it up until he went to Danuta, though, so maybe it's something that he has.
To be fair,
I'll have it
Kyle
detect
would
when
have
it
had
spawns there.
everything in Dark. Like, he had a huge
It's
backpack.
his infinite pockets.
I've been hit. I've got one on me.
90s video game style. I mean, it didn't really get much better after that, but sometimes you have inventories that are limited to 2 slots for weapons.
Destroyed.
Yeah. Regarding the long retreat times, that's primarily because the speed of units in space is a lot slower. So to be able to catch up and catch units that are trying to retreat, we increased the retreat times 20 seconds. And regarding plot armor, it's kind of a thing because we have the soldier bonus. The soldier bonus gives a health and damage multiplier to hero units that have it. Kyle has soldier 5. And we also have a rank system where heroes gain more health the higher rank they are. So you don't lose them too easily if you make a mistake.
Right. I'm making a huge mistake here and deciding to go back in with all of our forces from the region. I feel like if I don't do that, they're just going to kill me. So we got to.
There is that risk, yeah. The Empire is set up to relentlessly push the Quaimar region. You'll be glad to know after this battle, if you try and use the Invincible class, you'll be glad to know that I'm buffing assault missiles. They are going to have double damage compared to what they have now. Currently,
that's a real
Invincible
confidence
class
booster
will
for
be
this.
useless.
Real confidence booster for this battle.
It has the acceleration of 500G, so I wouldn't even recommend dropping it in until you get like right there. It's more of a static defense platform than a cruiser, to be honest. And those, yeah. So don't drop anything that's a freighter class unless you really are really desperate.
Heading out.
Well, I feel like this battle, there was a big icon. I don't know if it was just a group of smaller icons, but it looked like they had something that was bigger than the VST that I just missed the icon for.
Let's move out.
So
Let's go.
I don't know
Keep
if this is just the
I
biggest.
think
mistake I've
I'm
ever
pretty
made.
sure they just have a VSD too.
Okay.
And the VSD 2, you can maybe mob it with bombers. It has like no anti-fighter capability, so as long as you can get past their Carracks, you can get your bombers in and say hi. Yeah, the AI is probably like hiding out right now, trying to wait for you to come to them because they're smart now, and they don't just like wildly fly around the map so much.
Underway.
I'm gonna try to sneak around behind him with this guy. This one
Over there.
absorbs all the fire.
Armed and ready. Ahead.
Yeah, I mean they can't really hit a small Corvette very easily, so that's good.
Underway. I copy, sir.
A guy's question is: possible to give the commander shuttle an ability where they could assume control or leave a capital ship? That would be.
Moving into position.
I guess that's possible with the boarding ability. It would be really weird because you'd probably have to have it replace the ship, like immediately. Like you'd have the boarding ability go off and then despawn and respawn the ship at
Yeah.
the same health. At least with Phoenix Rising, with no hard points, we can do that, and it will be at the health, and we don't have to worry about hard points being destroyed or anything. So that's actually kind of possible, but it would be really.
Head full.
I'll look into it, I guess.
I messed it up there. Hello, Legion.
Underway.
So our brave little toaster here is making its way
Moving into
behind the enemy fleet. This one's still alive,
Copy.
not for long. I'll have to arrange some sort of.
The other
state
one
hero
looks like
for
it's
that.
getting mobbed by TIE fighters. Not even the CR-90 is actually one of the things about Phoenix Rising, which is kind of weird, is that corvettes end up being kind of weak against fighters because we have quite long cooldowns between laser attacks. So it's like a second cooldown for every laser bolt. So unless they specifically have the rapid laser cannons like the Neutron Star, they're actually pretty weak against starfighters, and they're better at dealing with freighters, to be honest, and transports.
Well,
Sneak
we
around
do
the
have
back.
a couple of our own fighters we can drop in. Are the YT-1300, are the light freighters going to be any good against the fighters, or should I just leave them out entirely?
The
Am I having
YT-1300s
Millennium
are a bit
Falcon
slow.
syndrome?
They're a bit slow to deal with fighters. They only have a couple of lasers. They need to get really high level. At really high level, they're quite good. They have a repeating laser and proton torpedo launchers. But at this low level, they're not going to do a great job against TIE fighters.
I made some probably erroneous assumptions about where this was going to end up.
Well, you found that the Empire, I think, are chasing you across the map right now.
Yeah. Well, we've got that one Carrack under fire already. It looks like that one's probably going to go down before anything else nearby gets it. I'm going to assume the Victory is down around over here. Otherwise, we'd probably be under fire from that as well.
Here they come.
No, they can stay farther away. I wasn't like requesting them to
Choose your
actually come in here, but
Moving into position. Ordnance received. Moving to destination. We are heading
So the good thing about the Recusant class, at least, is it has very, very long range, so you can use that as a standoff weapon. However, it's incredibly weak and will just fall apart very quickly if it starts getting hit by anything bigger than a turbo laser.
are you suggesting that CIS technology was not the pinnacle of durability?
Squadron moving out.
That is indeed what I may be suggesting. But hey, I should notice everybody who's watching this, Clone Wars tech. If you want Clone Wars tech, Phoenix Rising has plenty of Clone Wars
Come
tech.
on, you're better than that.
No, I'm not.
Weapons online.
Alright, well we got this VSD coming into view. I'm gonna just switch everyone to fire on that.
We've lost the shield generator.
And it seems like we're starting to get some...
I copy.
some of
Here
our
comes
fighters
VSD
over
too.
here.
Transport ready. Reporting. Flight systems engaged.
No.
So one of the things that we have on a lot of our ships is a modified it's a modified swap weapons ability technically called Blast, which is a power to weapons which essentially increases the caliber of the main turbo laser cannons on a ship. So that's what that Victory class Star Destroyer was doing. It was blasting you to pieces with its rather powerful power to weapons.
So I
And you
assume
can
for
see
the
your
next
assault
build, you're
missiles
actually getting
doing
that
nothing.
removed so that they don't do that to me anymore, right?
Yes, I have. I'm going to put an if statement in to make sure, like, if player equals Corey, it turns off.
Okay, perfect. That's all I ask.
Star cruiser here.
Okay, we've almost got full salvo back up. I kind of want to save full salvo. Oh, never mind. I don't want to save full salvo because I left it on auto cast. I was going to save it to use against the VST2 back here, but
It's okay. Every missile is being shot down by their point defense.
oh, that's reassuring.
Keep your eyes open.
And one of the other big things about the mod is that we understand that we have very high population capacity and large numbers of units can be brought into tactical battles. So we understand that adding large amounts of micro in the terms of abilities is pretty unpleasant for the player. So almost all abilities are completely autonomous, and units will use them automatically in what we consider to be the best scenario. You can turn that off, of course, in the main game options or just by selecting the unit and right-clicking on the ability if you don't enjoy it. And here you can see the wonderful power of the Invincible class cruiser achieving pretty much nothing.
It helped against that other VSD. So, well, there it goes. I hope it at least had fun. That's what counts. That's what we're all about here in the Rebel Alliance. Do you have a good time?
Choose your reinforcements.
Okay. This whole plan seems like it was probably not great.
Yes, there's a reason the Quaimar sector was overrun.
Frigate responding. Attacking target. Fire at will.
I assumed it was just the incompetence of the commanders, but that's clearly not the case here.
Our main shields are attacking.
Ready. Moving to attack position.
Alright, can we just get everyone to concentrate fire on that not quite super Star Destroyer? I think we
Even
can actually
one of
take
the
that
things
down.
about the scale of Phoenix Rising is that even a Victory 2 class can be an incredibly dangerous opponent to the wrong fleet. If you don't have sufficient bomber support, or if you don't have sufficient heavy cruisers, you will just get destroyed.
Well, it looks like I am gonna just get destroyed. Here goes my first recusant.
Attack. Engage.
Oh god.
I would suggest that you run the Recusant away, because it is at least fast, and you can maybe have it retreat to another planet sometime later in the
There's a
future.
dreadnought over here somewhere that's probably gonna prevent that. Maybe not. You know what? These guys are
I'm losing control.
getting some damage off on that VSD.
Ready.
You just got to rely on your bombers, and they'll probably be able to take out the VSD, because it can't really do anything against them.
Y-wing standing by.
It'll just miss.
Calamari frigate here. Forward.
Right. They're going farther away.
I've got one on me.
Are there SSDs in this mod? Well,
Fire. Keep in
what
formation.
a weapon.
Bombers at the
Yes, there's the Executor class and the Sovereign class. They are coded into the mod. Currently, I don't really have huge plans for making them necessarily buildable, because they take a huge number of weeks. You can build them if you play as the Empire in Operation Skyhook. You can research and build the Executor class, but they take up the full 400 population on their own. You cannot bring any support ships. And that's basically the main issue with the cap as it is. I could increase to 500, but then it starts to get kind of silly.
Fire at will. Watch the cross.
And yeah,
For command.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really do like about Phoenix Rising, the way the pop cap scales. So you can have ships at a reasonable power for what they are and still have them be useful, because you have that much room to work with within the population cap.
Roger that.
yeah. So essentially population cap is calculated based on ship volume. So you're allowed to command, I think, 4,000 meters cubed of volume or something like that. I think that's what it ended up being. Well, it looks like your bombers were victorious, so that's good.
Yes, sir. Engage.
Otherwise, they would have been kicked out of the force. And by that, I mean they probably would have died.
Form up.
I might regret bringing the recusant back in that close,
Crossed our main shields.
but oh, that's not even my Nebulon B.
I have contact.
Nothing's my Nebulon B anymore.
Moving in for
Nope.
the kill.
Corey's asking when the full mod is releasing. The full mod is releasing when it is done, because I am one guy with limited resources and a strong reliance on the community to provide a lot of the resources I need. I'm currently waiting primarily on Exporter for the Blender 3D software, so I can actually get models exported properly and quickly. And I also need to go and draw up a list of requests for models for various mods, so that I can get those sorted out.
Starting my run.
The demo, however, is constantly updated. I'm probably going to be putting in another update in the next couple of weeks or so to update the assault missiles, to bring them up to snuff.
Changing course to
And a lot of the stuff that Corey's seeing here, like even the upgrade pips on the units, they weren't in the initial release of the demo. So I've been doing a lot of work to get that kind of thing in regularly.
And I believe one of the things that you've been showing off in the Discord server, at least, has been some work on some new assets for the CSA, and I believe that was a playable faction in some of the initial releases. Is that the direction you'd like to go with them in the future as well,
Copy.
or is that just to add more flavor to their starting forces for when you're invading them?
I'm planning to make them a full playable faction, because it was initially the initial thoughts with the design of the mod that we would have the CSA as playable, we would have the Black Sun, and we would have the Imperial Warlords. Now,
I've got one on me.
it won't be possible to have the Black Sun or the Imperial Warlords act in the same way in terms of unit upgrades. They may show up later. Definitely the Warlords are probably going to show up at least as an unplayable faction for a while. But the CSA is probably going to show up as playable. We have the most assets for them. They have a lot of overlap with the Empire, which is convenient. But they have some interesting stuff. And I'm bringing in some new mechanics specifically for the CSA involving their leadership. Because they're a corporation-built setup, instead of having standard leaders, they have an EXO, an executive officer, and what you have to do is meet targets. You meet income and revenue targets to be allowed to perform military action. Basically, you can still perform military action whenever you want, but if you meet the targets appropriately, you'll be given EXO leaders who are more military inclined, as the CSA is basically, they feel like they've built up enough of an economic base that they can go and make some of their own military overtures towards other factions.
Right, so Dr. Knickers just asked in the chat here a link to the PR Discord. That's actually something that Phoenix Rising has a channel within the CGB Discord. So anyone who's in our Discord for the channel and for Thrawn's Revenge, there's the Phoenix Rising channel in there as well. And I should also mention that for anyone, I'm going to try to add in a little bit when I post the VOD at the front, saying that there is a link to both the workshop and the mod database page. I don't know if you really... Do you use the mod database page much for Phoenix Rising anymore?
I still update the demo on there, but that's more of a once-a-month thing because it's a lot more difficult to do than on the workshop. And I do post, when I do post updates, I post news articles, so they have the changelog. But apart from that, it's not used very much. It was never used very much back when we were more active as a team.
Right, so just for anyone who would have missed it at the start, there is a link to everything Phoenix Rising related in the description of this VOD, or if you're watching the live version, then Exodus just did link to the CGB Discord server. So if anyone wants to join that and check it out, or you can just check on the channel once the new video is out. Or you can even just search. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with how search bars work. You can go on the Steam Workshop and search Phoenix Rising, and it'll come up. I believe there's also the 1.1, the last one?
1.2. 1.2 was the last version.
I thought the
so 1.2,
no, that was 1.0.
No, the beta was 1.3, and then I ended up, because there's so many changes, I basically called it 2.0. 1.2 was the last version, and if you have nostalgic feelings about that, I fixed the AI so it actually works now, and you can go back and play that in all its laggy and slightly broken glory. I know that one of the other big changes is we changed the space combat balance a huge amount compared to 1.2, been completely redone from the ground up to match land. So there's now a seamless transition from land to space in terms of weaponry and armor. And that means that if you prefer the old style of combat, it's still available to you in the old version of the mod.
Right. I have lost all of my...
Yeah, I should have mentioned attacking a dreadnought was a terrible idea because that has 20 rapid laser cannons.
Yeah, I was asking myself, like, does it have the... I should have just looked at the thing, but... Yeah,
yes, we also have extremely descriptive unit cards which tell you every stat of every unit.
Is this
So
the ion cannon or the laser cannon, Carrick?
All the Carracks are laser cannon variant.
This is just not good for me, is it?
I think I might make them so they end up going 10 laser, 10 ion in one of the later upgrades. I'll see how I feel about that.
All right, well, Quaimar, you guys are on your own.